Hey there! Today I'm going to show you how to make these beautiful paper succulents. I came up with this tutorial quite a while ago, but I have yet to do a video on it, so I'm going to show you a video of how to do these succulents today. And the supplies you're going to need for this project is a glue gun, you'll need 65-pound cardstock in choice colors, you'll need scissors or a cutting machine. You'll need a wood dowel for curling the petals. You can use distress ink and a sponge if you wish to add some color to the tips. This is totally optional. And if you decide you want to stem the flowers, then you'll also need some floral wire. I have 3 small succulent templates, and I'm going to show you all 3 in this video. And I'm just going to show you how I curl the petals a little different for each, give you some different options. They are essentially all made the same way, and you will have the exact same petal count no matter which shape template you are working with. So there are 6 different size petals included for each of these flowers, and I use 2 of each size for every flower, so therefore you will have 12 petal layers in total for each succulent bloom. Okay, so like I said, you're going to have a total of 12 petals here, 2 in each size. So once you get those cut out, then we'll begin the process of shaping the petals. So this part here is optional. I like to distress the edges of my petals using pan pastels, and I'm going to link which ones I purchased below in the video description if you're interested. This is totally optional, so you can still make these flowers even if you don't want to do this part. I just want to show you how I do it. I just take a little sponge and I just distress the tips of each of the petal points slightly, so it has a little bit of extra burst of color on the tip. And then to shape the petals for this pointed succulent, at the very base where the petal is meeting the center, I just give it a very slight crease so that it adds a little dimension. I repeat this process for all 12 of these petals, so it doesn't matter which size, all 12 of these petals, I repeat the process with the distressing and the folding in the center, just like I showed you there. So I'm going to do that with all my petals, and then I'm going to show you how to assemble the bloom together. Okay, so all my petals are prepped and ready to go. We're going to start with the 2 largest petals out of the 12. And the first thing I do here is I take the petals in my hand and I sort of tuck them all the same direction, sort of like if they were being fanned out, and I give them a little bit of a twist. And that just helps the petals kind of stand up a little more naturally on their own. I add a little bit of glue to the bottom, and then I place it into the center of the other largest petal. Now notice here that when I place that in, I aimed to have the petal points alternating with each other so it looks nice and full. And then what you're going to do here with the rest of these petals is you're just going to repeat that exact process. You're going to take the next largest size and you're going to work progressively from the largest size petals that you cut out to the smallest in the center. You're going to tuck all of your petals the same direction, give them a little bit of a twist at the base to help those petals stand up. Add some glue, place it into the center of the flower, and keep repeating this until you reach the smallest petal for this entire flower. So it's not really hard, it just takes a little bit of time because there are 12 layers here to work in, and you want to work progressively. And as you go, just aim to try and keep each next layer alternating with its petal points below the layer below it. So you just want it to, you don't want it to be directly stacked, you want it to be, kind of alternating so it looks like it's blooming. And I'm just continuing here until I reach the very center of my flower. I'm following the same process for each one of these, and the flower will grow tighter as you work towards the center. And if you feel you need to create a little more room, just gently kind of push the petals out a little bit to create a little more space in the center so that you can add all of those pieces in. If for any reason the last 1 or 2 doesn't go in and your center looks nice and full and tight, then don't worry about it. You know, your flower just came together a little differently, and that's totally fine. The goal here is just so that the center is nice and tight and looks, like a succulent center, and it's not like completely opened up. So I'm down to my last two here, and for these it might be a little hard to tuck and twist them, so you can just kind of gather them as best you can in your hand, give it a nice little twist at the base, and then sit it down in there. At this point, your flower is sort of going to naturally hold the center up because it's gotten so tight there in the center with all of our petals, especially with that last piece that we add in there. And once you add that last piece in there, you've completed your succulent. You can see how pretty it looks. So this is just one of three that I have. I'm going to show you the other two. They are extremely similar to what I just showed you. The same petal count, the same process, everything the same. The shape of the petal is just slightly different. I'm going to show you here. This is called my Paper Bloom Shaping Mat and Tool Set. This is totally optional. You don't have to use this, but I use this for cupping my paper petals, and it can really add a different touch to the petal. So for this round succulent, I'm going to choose to use this to sort of cup each of these petal points, and it adds a little bit of a different look to the flower as we build it. If you don't have this or don't wish to purchase this, then you can of course just do a little bit of a crease at the bottom, or even just curl it in with a wood dowel if you like. Either will work, and it will still turn out to be a beautiful succulent. I'm doing the same thing I did with the first flower here. I am starting with the two largest petals out of the 12 for this round succulent, and I'm working my way in progressively to the smallest petal in the center. As I go, I'm just trying to make sure that I alternate the petal points so that they're not directly stacked and they're sort of every other one to the one that's below it. This just takes a couple of minutes to do. You can still work on tucking as you go to the center more. You can work on tucking the petals, sort of like I showed you with the first one, and giving it a little bit of a twist, and then opening it out. And you'll continue to work progressively until you get to the very smallest succulent petal here for this round succulent. You can see the process is very similar. We're just basically using a different shape template, so it's going to create a different looking flower. For that last one, just do your best to gather or tuck the petals and sort of twist it a little bit to get it nice and closed and tight, and then add that last smallest petal layer into the center there. And there is our rounded succulent. I have official names for each of these on the blog post that's linked below, so you can learn more about sort of this, the type of flower I was inspired from to create these. And I have a third style here, and again, very much the same process. If you feel confident, you know, what you've already watched here, you don't really need to continue to watch this, but I want to make sure I'm thorough and I show everything. You're going to count out the same number of petals for this. You're going to do 12 petals. You're going to have 2 per size, and you're going to work progressively from the largest one to the smallest one. And I do, for this petal here, I do very much the same thing as I did with the very first flower we did. I just crease at the bottom. You can, of course, add your Distress ink or your pan pastels to the tip if you want to add some additional color. I'm not going to do that for this one, just so you can sort of see a difference. I didn't do it with the green one either. So as you can see, they make beautiful succulents whether or not you do the Distress or not. So just a very slight crease on each petal point here, and repeat that for all of these 12 petals for this style of succulent. Again, I'm starting with my 2 largest petals, and I'm layering them together, and I'm just working to alternate those petal points to each other so that it looks nice and full, the flower looks nice and full. And again, work progressively from the largest petal into the smallest petal. And I'm not going to walk you through all the voice narration of this again because I know I've already done that twice. It's again the very similar, same process. So you can just kind of watch this process for this one as well. And this is how you make my small succulents. I have some giant succulents too that I'm currently working on, so I'm really excited to share those as well. But I think these are just beautiful, and I have links for the paper for this below that I used if you're loving these paper colors here. I have links to all that below in this video description. I have a blog post on my site that covers, you know, details of everything as well, with like links and stuff where I found everything online. So you can use everything I used here if you're wanting to get a very similar look. For those of you who might be wondering about my glue gun, because I get a lot of questions about that, my glue gun is from Craftbox Girls by Surebonder. And you can Google that online, and they sell out quite frequently, but it is a beautiful glue gun and I absolutely love it. So if you're curious about that, I'm going to link that below as well. And we're just finishing up this flower here. I got a few more layers to add in. And you can see, even though these processes are very similar, they create 3 different looking flowers because we worked with 3 different shapes of petals. For this very last one here, I sort of curled these petals a little bit more than creased them, and I just tucked them and twisted them as best I could. The goal here is just to make sure that your flower center is closed and tight. So it doesn't have to be, you know, an exact match to the petals below it, but we do want to make sure that the flower center is closed. I'm adding that last little bit to the center there, and there we go. Now, if you want to know how to stem these, I'm going to show you my trick for that real quick. You may not want to stem them, but if you do, I want to make sure you know how. So I use just either a 22 or an 18 gauge wire for this. Either will work. I cut one extra petal out. It can be like in the largest size or the second to largest size. I form a very small circle at the top of my wire, and then I punch it through and thread it all the way up to the base of the petal layer. Then I add some glue and press it into the bottom of my flower. Make sure you hold it there till it's fully dry, and then you will have successfully created a stem for your succulent flower in the event that you might want to put these in a vase or perhaps a bouquet or something like that. If you want some close-up details of how I formed the stem, please visit that blog post. It's linked below this video. I have a close-up image of that, so if you're wanting to get a better visual. And that's how I make my succulents. You can put them in a planter or put them on a wreath, anything really that you can imagine with them. I have some giant succulents as well that I'm working on, and I'm going to link those below once they've been published, in case you're looking for a giant design as well. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.